Voiceless was started 8 years ago by Jaime Shaggy Flores, who is here tonight. He has continued to organize with students in the 5-college area, in the UMass, Amherst, Hampshire College, Smith College, Mount Holyoke College area to continue this event. It's been here on Amherst College campus for 6 years now, and although it has been a permanent event for 8 years, we still struggle to find the funding from this institution every year to put it on. We have come to this event, Willie Perdomo, Papaletto, Melendez, and this year the people that we honored, Jesus Tato Lavierra from New York, Luis Reyes Rivera from New York City, from Brooklyn, Mr. Jose Montoya, the founder of the Royal Chicano Air Force, one of the premier cultural activists of the Chicano movement from Sacramento, currently the poet laureate of Sacramento, and Mr. Roberto Vargas from San Antonio, born in Nicaragua. Mr. Lavierra was also born in Puerto Rico. So we have people that come from across the country, from across generations.
We're in negotiations to try to make it a permanent part of the college. The Voiceless comes from Mumia Abu Jamal. He says that he's a voice for the voiceless. It's like our communities don't always have people who can speak up, you know, and the poets are those designated people who are like the chosen ones to be the newscasters or the people saying, okay, this is really what's happening in the barrio. And so that's why we're voices for the voiceless. I mean, those people that are at the bottom because of issues of racism, capitalism, you know, I mean, all the little isms that we have in this world, those are the people who are the voiceless. It's the ones who just have been stepped on, and you know, it's always a different group, you know, and I think for us being, you know, me being Boricua, being Puerto Rican, and you know, being a member of the African diaspora, being black, being Latino, I mean, you can't get any more voiceless than that group of folks. You know, we have our talents, but you know, even when we do get people who are professors or people who are academics and stuff, they don't necessarily represent the barrio. You know, it's like they get their little job and they're like, okay, I'm not really going to rock the boat and say what needs to be said. And we need people who are brave enough to step up and say, this is really what the issue is, and we need help. And so that's what we try to do in terms of our poetry.
Óyelo, Boricua, te están llamando, son tus raíces, no niegues, nunca niegues lo que tú eres. Dreams of coconut trees, sugar cane, warm Caribbean playas, and cold pina coladas. Little 10 nappy-headed children, playing the caseríos, the projects, afraid of El Cuco, the boogeyman, and of their strict mamas. Men machos playing Casanova, dancing to the salsa beat, bodies move, exotic rituals, strange locations in the background of the mysterious night's heat, but this dream not reality, a perverted Yankee fantasy. My raíces, my roots, mi familia, mis hermanos run deep, take the real journey, take the leap. Wind gets still burrowed around New York that's new, seeking streets pale of gold, find you. Broken dreams, fertility, and broken hearts. Subjected to racist stereotypes and inferiority complexes, we are not black, yellow, brown, but all the world's mixes. Moms and dads persevering from slum to slum, not being welfare slaves, remembering that jibaros, campesinos, farm workers were never bums. Ancient ancestors, Tainos, and others live in utopia. Columbus the butcher needed Peter's pit at the site of the Latin indigenous cornucopia. Slaughtered the natives, raped the women, offered gold into a priest Las Casas, wrote to the Pope on the so-called conquistadores, he told African slaves brought in bondage and chains, no graves decomposed by the tropical rains, intermarriages between the races, so many cultures, features, beautiful different faces. We encompass the whole melting pot, we are the lone beautiful, Afro, Taino, shining star. Heroes, this one's like a forgotten dream. Do you know what their efforts, what their lives really mean? Yuriko Chiyama, Antonio Maceo, Eugenio María de Hostos, Lolita Lebron, Rafael Cancel Miranda, the Young Lords, the Brown Berets, Dolores Huerta, Cesar Chavez, and all the black and brown Puerto Rican political prisoners. Kept the real when others sold out for a few crumbs and a phony clout. Puerto Ricanos, Mexicanos, Salvadoreños, Latinos, black people, diaspora. Where is your roots? Where is your anger? Fight oppression, remember your roots. Never supposed to be stepped on by greedy racist boots. And if physically today you can't be a revolutionary, and if physically today sitting here you cannot be a revolutionary, be one mentally, for this will one day lead to cultural awakening. Óyelo, óyelo, óyelo. Es la poesía. Wake up before it's too late.
We are the people who love to love. We are the people who love to love. We are the people who love to love. We are the people who love.
And the sightless lady apologized, but I had won. I walked out into the street unescorted. Y me fui por toda la F, and it was raining hard, and I began to whistle. And I was la cucaracha that got away from the ray of the black flag. Todo cateado, con una antena caída, pero libre, and whistling, my cockroach integrity intact.
It gives us a sense that our work hasn't been futile, that it wasn't in vain, that what we were saying caught on, and I think that the incredible evidence of that was this packed house. You know, poetry doesn't pack houses, but for some reason, and I can see why, this was an incredible lineup, and tonight was an incredible, you know, attainment for those of us who have been in the struggle this long, knowing that the young people have been listening and are writing incredible stuff themselves, and not copying us, you know. It's their own, they got their own year, they got their own, it's like comparing, you know, a jazz musician from the old age with a young jazz musicians today. It's still jazz, but it's they're doing it in a different way, which is good to us. We don't like to be emulated. We like to be respected, and I think that's a testimony to the fact that they have a lot of respect for the elders. The way that we have lived under this oppression for as long as we have, we need to give voice to our trials and tribulations. Our struggle has been a difficult one, and I think that if it wasn't for our songs and our murals and our poetry, our history would be lost.
Montoya, he's a legend in the Chicano community. I mean, that's big time right there. Luis Reyes Rivera, I mean, every major poet that's come out after the 70s up to now has either studied Luis or copied his style. You have Tato Laviera, one of the original New Yorican poets. Even the young cats, Giles is one of the people who's pushing Asian American poetry in this country. Truth is doing things in DC, in the Mid-Atlantic, that are ahead of, he's ahead of what a lot of people are just doing. You know, some people get caught up in spoken word. What you see with a lot of these poets is that they're not just performers, but they're actually published in anthologies and books. These are the folks that the academics are going to be studying 10 years, 15 years from now, whereas everybody who came to Voiceless be like, yeah, I know that cat, I already bought his book, you know. It's one of the few places where you can actually interact with people who are at that level. You know, with a lot of institutions, you know, academia, they bring these poets and it's in a stage, and you know, you can't touch them, you can't interact with them, and you know, we try not to do that with Voices. It's like, these are the people's poets, you know, they are accessible to you at all times. Developed in the late 60s, early 70s out of the New Yorican Poets Cafe. Actually, it was before the cafe. Victor Hernandez Cruz, Jesus Papoleto Melendez, Luis Reyes Rivera, Sandra Maria Esteves, Pedro Pietri. I mean, there's a whole list of folks I'm not even mentioning right now because it's so long. But these were folks who basically laid the groundwork for, we're Boricua, we're here in the U.S., and we're going to use poetry to let you know about our experiences, our history, our culture. That was the original New Yorican scene. A lot of it came from the Young Lords movement, from movements that, radical movements from the Puerto Rican community, from the barrios, from Nueva York, but it was not all in Nueva York. There were poets, New Yorican poets who didn't reside in New York. There were in other parts, Chicago, Philly, other places who were also doing that style of poetry. Much influenced by what the black community was doing, because we were also members of that community creating poetry. Felipe Luciano was one of the founders of the Last Poets, also an original New Yorican poet. So, you know, that continuum then goes on to the 80s and the 90s into now, where you have folks like, you know, Bonafide Rojas, Caridad de la Luz, La Bruja, out of the Bronx. You have Hector Rivera and the Welfare Poets, Willie Perdomo, Tony Medina. I mean, it's just such a long list of people who are continuing this style of poetry.